Good afternoon and welcome to the celebration of life for our family member and our friend, Kathy Hampton. She loved to sing, and Dalvin sent me a list of songs that we would be here all afternoon and evening if we sang every one of them, so we picked a few. So if you would, please join us in singing number 882. No tears in heaven, no sorrows given, all will be glory in that land. There'll be no sadness, all will be gladness, when we shall join that happy band. And there'll be no tears, no tears, no tears of that sorrow and pain will all have food. No tears in heaven, and no tears of that, no tears in heaven will be no. Glory is waiting, waiting up yonder, where we shall spend that endless day. There with our Savior will be forever, where no more sorrow can dismay. And there'll be no tears, no tears, no tears of that sorrow and pain will all have full. There'll be no tears, oh, no tears of that, no tears in heaven will be no. Well, some morning yonder we'll cease to ponder o'er things this life has brought to view. All will be clearer, saved ones be dearer, in heaven where all will be made new. And there'll be no tears, oh, no tears of that sorrow and pain will all have full. There'll be no tears, oh, no tears of that, no tears in heaven will be no. Number 853. 853. Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy and his grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, he'll prepare for him a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout for victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of him in glory will Lord towards us life by faith. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory.
Thank you for being here today. Family appreciates your presence. We have come to remember the life of Kathy Hampton. Dearly loved mom, mama, mother, grandmother, Aunt Kathy, teacher, neighbor, and friend. She went to be with her Heavenly Father early on the morning of January 23rd, 2026. On a hot Thursday, June 22nd, 1933, a baby girl was born, at Aunt Kate's, Catherine Miner's home, on Colorado Street in Coleman, Texas. Parents were Alvin D. and Rosa Stella Walker of the Whitechapel community, Coleman County. May 30th of 1928, just a short 5 years earlier, they had lost the first baby girl, Johnny Marie, who was stillborn. Alvin was a rancher, farmer, carpenter, and Rosa was a seamstress, caregiver, and homemaker. They chose Sarah Catherine for the baby's name. She grew up a country girl, and she was proud of it. She enjoyed climbing windmills, driving the tractor, learning carpentry from her daddy, and cherished memories of her mother sewing and baking biscuits. From an early age, Catherine had a gift for solving math problems, and she was even sent to the principal's office. I know you have a hard time believing that, just like I do, because she was a rule follower. She went to the principal's office in elementary school for correcting her teacher's calculations once too often. She attended Bowen Elementary and graduated valedictorian from rural Centennial High in Valera, Texas. She enjoyed playing basketball and volleyball, and her parents definitely enjoyed watching her play. She received a BA from Abilene Christian College in 1954 in mathematics and physical education, and a master's degree in education and school counseling from Southwest Texas State in 1965. She taught math and physical education in Brady, Duncanville, and Lando, and math lab at Lincoln Junior High and Clark Middle School in Abilene until she retired in 1999. So after 27 years of teaching in public schools, Kathy made a lasting difference in the lives of students, colleagues, and administrators. She relished the light bulb moments when she was able to instill confidence and learning in a struggling student. On June 2nd, 1956, she married D. Hampton Jr. from Brady, Texas. They lived in Duncanville, Dallas, Llano, and Abilene. He received his bachelor's degree from Texas A&M and master's degree from ACC. He taught at Llano High, Abilene High, and was counselor at Lincoln Junior High at the time of his death, April 30th, 1982. Until his death, they raised 4 children together. And after he died, she continued raising children from the ages of 10 to 16 through to adulthood. Their children are daughter Carla Hampton Weatherspoon of Greensboro, North Carolina, and her daughter Sarah Kaylee, Stella Hampton White, YT Ranch, Andrews, Texas, and her children Thomas, Abby Rose, and her husband Wintana, and newborn baby Weston, born January 24th, the day after Kathy's passing, the first great-grandchild. Stella's other children are Luke and Grace Catherine, and then Dee and Kathy's son, Dalvin D, and wife Jenny of Midlothian, and their children Jaden, Emma Rose, Walker D, and then Kathy's daughter Angela Joy and husband Robert Stefanski of Anderson, Indiana. All 4 children received bachelor's degrees from ACU and studied even beyond their bachelor's. Carla received her master's degree from North Carolina State in Greensboro, North Carolina, and Angela her PhD from the University of Texas, Austin. All 4 are certified teachers, and I tell you that Kathy was very proud of each of their accomplishments. She was also very proud of those grandchildren. And if you would take the time to listen, she would tell you about what they were up to, what they were doing, and where they were, and how proud she was of each and every one of them. Catherine's parents preceded her in death. Alvin Walker died on January 12, 1983 in Coleman, and Rosa Stella Fenton Walker on November 1st, 1999 in in Abilene. And for the last years of her life, Kathy was her caregiver. Through the years, Kathy, as most of us knew her, taught Bible classes to ages toddler through senior adult. In later years, she enjoyed teaching senior adults at Royal Estates, which is now Lindale, here in Abilene. She enjoyed life's little blessings: teaching, Rock County, quilting, 42 and 88, birding, and lending a helping hand. She was a member of Abilene Retired Teachers and Hillcrest Church of Christ in Abilene, and Hillcrest was over 50 years. She passed from this life January 23rd, 2026 in Greensboro, North Carolina. She would like to be remembered as a prayer warrior and a servant who had a servant heart, who was thankful to God, Jesus, her physical family, and her Christian brothers and sisters, and one who looked forward with blessed assurance to heaven. A lot of these words were written by Kathy herself because she wanted to plan ahead and she never wanted to be a burden to anyone. But I can't just stop there. I asked a couple of dear friends, and there were many more that I could have asked to give me some stories. So these are some memories from Wanda Craig. I first knew Kathy when we were students at ACC in the 1950s, where we were both preparing to be teachers. A few years later, both our families were back in Abilene and very involved with ministries at Hillcrest. Our husbands, Byron Craig and Dee Hampton, were school teachers, and Kathy and I were happy stay-at-home moms. Later, when Kathy needed to return to teaching, my husband was the math supervisor for AISD. He arranged a new position of a math lab that was perfect for Kathy's skills as an expert math teacher. Her compassion and patience helped students thrive. A fun memory is our Widows 42 Club that Joan Moore organized. 12 ladies met each month to host a game and serve food. Kathy always chose March, and we celebrated with a theme of Texas statehood history. Many of us in that group also traveled to York, Nebraska, Fredericksburg, and many other places. Of course, that required playing dominoes wherever we went. Kathy was a genuine servant worker behind the scenes to countless people whom she noticed needing some help. In addition to being kind, intelligent, humorous, and faithful, she was also a great lifelong friend that would be missed. Another friend, Joanne Wilkes, had some stories to share. And she sent the first one via email, and then there was a second, and a third, and a fourth, and there were way many more, but I'm only going to read those first four. I've had so many adventures and good times with Kathy. My earliest memory of Kathy was when I first came to Hillcrest in the 1970s. If I remember correctly, it was on Sunday morning at Hillcrest, and the announcements were being read. Well, after two girls, Dee and Kathy Hampton finally got them a boy, and that's when Dalvin was born. So many good memories, too many to tell them all, but here are some of our best. During our birding years, we were avid birders, and I'm sure many of you have gone with her on some of those adventures. They were members of the local Big Country Audubon Society. Often, Joanne was the unofficial designated driver when Kathy and June Estes and other birders went on local Audubon Society trips. Kathy was a great teacher, especially for me in so many ways, and the beginning birder. For sure, our biggest bird adventure was 2 weeks in August 2013 when they went to Gunnison, Colorado in search of the rare bird species, the Gunnison sage grouse, existing only in that area. And for 2 weeks, they didn't stay in a glamorous hotel, they camped in a tent. On arrival in Gunnison, Kathy called the local Colorado Mountain College and asked if they knew of studies there and or anyone that could give us information on where they could find the Gunnison sage grouse. Yes, she was speaking with him, a teacher there. He said, "If you two Texas birders can be ready to go now, I will show you where to possibly find them." And they did. And after a couple of days, they added this rare species to their Audubon Life bird list. They were absolutely crazy happy. They kept saying over and over, "We did it, we did it." I am thankful to say we were friends through some of our best times. Let me tell you, Kathy was a quilter. She was an artist with a passion for quilting. So many dear friends quilted with her. She knew where the quilt fabric shops were in every small town around Abilene, and they knew her. Joanne enjoyed seeing beautiful quilts because she comes from a family of quilters, but she does not quilt. She enjoyed seeing and photographing many of Kathy's beautiful quilts. While they were there in Gunnison, Colorado, on the bird watching trip, Kathy found this quilt shop. It was the largest quilt shop that Joanne had ever been to. It was in a large old historic building in downtown Gunnison. The local quilting club had quilting areas with frames hanging from the ceiling. They spent all of one afternoon, the longest time Joanne had ever spent in one quilt shop. Kathy looked at every bolt of fabric there and chatted with the local quilters. We spent the whole afternoon there. Those Colorado quilting ladies enjoyed quilt talking with that Texas lady quilter. Kathy came home with special fabric for some of her grandchildren's quilts that she made. Kathy was a fun friend to hang with. Kathy, Sharon Reeves, and I all had birthdays in June. For years, we got together during that time to share our birthdays. Some of the celebrations were picnics with birthday brownies and candles. Some were picnics and fishing at Lake Abilene, Lake Coleman, Lake Kirby, and Lake Phantom Hill. One of our birthday trips at Lake Abilene, Kathy caught a big bass, and that really made a big celebration for us. Our wild and crazy fun trips took us so many places, including the old closed Lincoln School on South First Street here in Abilene, where she and Dee taught school, an annual spring wildflower drive. We love those bluebonnets. Most all lakes in and around Taylor County. Our birding passion, her encouraging me to do watercolor, small sketches, and paintings. For bird species identifications. Trips to hometown Coleman drugstore for hamburgers. One Thanksgiving, Kathy had been invited to go to someone else's house, but she kindly turned them down and invited Joanne over, and they had turkey sandwich, just the two of them together for that Thanksgiving. Joanne enjoyed her encouragement being with her when her mom passed away, encouraging her to join her every Monday morning at Lindell Retirement Center, where she taught a Bible class for many years. She enjoyed her quilting group at Hillcrest, regular domino game with friends. Kathy was a domino player. And our strong Christian family worshiping together at Hillcrest Church for all these years. I don't remember when I actually met Kathy, but I was at ACU with some of her children. Maybe it was when her son Dalvin was the youth minister at Hillcrest, where I now work. I'm not sure when I met her, but I sure am glad that I did. She was such an encourager to me in my ministry. Kathy was gentle, kind, compassionate, and usually quiet and contemplative, at least around me. When she spoke, you listened because you knew she had thought about what she wanted to say. I never heard her raise her voice or say anything bad about anyone. I'm sure you poor kids might have possibly heard her raise her voice. I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if you didn't. She was a godly woman, mother, grandmother, teacher, and friend. I want to share 3 quick stories. She would do anything for you if she could. I asked her to help me take my sons and their Cub Scout bins, second graders through fourth graders, birding. She thought about it for a little while, and she realized there was a place down south 83, 84 that we could be indoors, because she knew that if those boys were outside, there would be so much noise there would be no birds. So a nice place indoors where we could see them through beautiful glass windows. She patiently pointed out all of the different birds, including my personal favorite, cardinals, since I'm from St. Louis. The males are red to draw away potential danger from the females, she would say. When my boys were a little older, we had an adopted grandparent program at Hillcrest. And since I knew who was making the assignments, I assigned Kathy Hampton and Marion Rowe to my family. My boys enjoyed spending time with both ladies. I remember a couple times we went out to eat at Hef's and later maybe a birthday lunch at Cracker Barrel. Because she was willing to do anything for me, I was willing to do anything for her. She tried not to take advantage of that, but she called me one day and asked if I would come over and kill a mouse. Sure, I'll be right over. When I arrived, I found out that she'd already caught the mouse on a glue trap in the garage, but she didn't want to put it in the dumpster while it was still alive. First, she didn't want it to suffer. And second, she didn't want it back in her garage. So we kind of contemplated the best way, and finally she said, just hit it in the head with a hammer. Which I was surprised to hear come out of her mouth. But with her coaching and guidance, I did it. She had compassion even for the mouse. She didn't want it to suffer, but she couldn't kill it herself. Not sure what that says about me, except that I would have done about me. Angela wrote these words while spending time with her mother the last couple of weeks of her life. No way to measure what you are worth to friends, family, students, neighbors, children, grandchildren, great-grandchild. You lived a life of service. You lived a life of adventure. You lived a life with humor and grit. Resourceful, creative problem solver. It was not uncommon for you to fix your own plumbing or rig up your own tools because you both needed and wanted to do it yourself. Tossing the groceries at us across the room, always the forward shooter, keeping us on our toes, proud of your country upbringing, lover of his word, and singing, I hear your voice, still singing in church. Humming along as you work, telling us about the birds you saw on your adventures, stories of the days on the farm, climbing windmills with your daddy, how you can see forever up there. You are now part of the great cloud of witnesses. Thank you. Go in peace.
I grew up across the street from the Hamptons. We lived in the house directly across the street. We moved, my grandparents bought that house and moved in, and so I would come home or come to their house for the summers and for holidays and through college. And just about every time I got out of the car, when I would go over during college, I would hear my name hollered from across the street. And she would want to know how I was doing. And I'm pretty sure that she took care of my family and my grandmother as much as we did, and my grandfather as he was sick. But I also know that was reciprocated. There was lots of trips across the street to get mail whenever somebody was out of town.
We love the Hamptons and not consider them as forever family. And I think the term has been thrown around this week, forever neighbors. So very honored to be a part of the service today and of remembering Kathy. When we were looking for a church home, when we moved to Abilene after I had left working at a church here in town, we visited Hillcrest. And the first person who came up to me after worship was Kathy, and she said, "You're not going anywhere else. You're coming here." And so it was always great to see the beautiful smile that she had on her face. Let's sing number 875. Please, number 875. If for the price we have striven, after our labors are o'er, rest to our souls to be given on the eternal shore. Oh, the soul of the beautiful ones, there we shall rest, never to roam, free from all care, happy and bright. Jesus is there, He is alive, often the storm, lonely are we, sighing for home, longing for Thee, beautiful home of the ransom beside the Christmas tree. Yes, and sweet rest is remaining for the true children of God, where there will be no complaining, never a chasing rod. Oh, the soul of the beautiful home, there we shall rest, never to roam, free from all care, happy and bright. Jesus is there, He is alive, oft in the storm, lonely are we, sighing for home, longing for Thee, beautiful home of the ransom beside the Christmas tree. And soon the bride will then adore me, we shall behold the glad dawn. Lean on the Lord till the morning, trust till the night is gone. Oh, but the soul of the beautiful home, there we shall rest, never to roam, free from all care, happy and bright. Jesus is there, He is alive, off in the storm, lonely are we, sighing for home, longing for Thee, beautiful home of the ransom beside the Christmas tree. Number 464. 464. God sent His Son, they called Him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. He lived and died to buy my pardon, and empty grave is there to prove my Savior lives. no poor with pain, and then as death gives way to victory, I'll see the light of glory, and I'll know that He reigns, because He lives. I can face tomorrow, because He lives. All fear is gone, because I know that He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you again, each one of you, for coming. And I know that you're here because you either had a special relationship with my mom, or you had a special relationship with somebody that's here. And I thank you for that, and the honor of remembering her. I've done this a lot over the last, not this, but funerals, over the last 40 plus years. And the one thing that I always feel when I walk into this space is it's like entering into the Holy of Holies. It is a place when we come to consider a human life and what it means in the light of God's love. And I want to thank you for being here in this place today, because for me it is entering into the Holy of Holies. It's remembering the one that I called Mom. And there is a beauty in that I can't express. When I asked some of the grandkids, and others about memories or things that they wanted shared, Jaden didn't hesitate. She said, the thing I remember is Mom, Grand, that's what they call it, Grand teaching me about the golden spiral. And so the golden spiral is one of those things that is a mathematician's, favorite deals, and an artist's favorite deals. She used it in quilts, she used it everywhere. It brings focus to things. It doesn't matter where you're at, that spiral comes through, and that shape maintains its consistency. If you zoom in, same shape. You come out, same shape. It never changes. It's a mathematical formula that she understood and I don't. But she took the time to teach Jaden about that. And today, as we consider her life, there is one theme that comes into focus at every spot along the way. And that is that God made her heart His dwelling place. It is that God entered into her heart at a very young age, and every moment along the way that we talk about, every moment that you remember, every moment that we share is filled with His presence. And because of that, today our presence is different. We get to laugh. We get to share memories. We get to smile knowing that she has achieved the ultimate goal of her life, and that is spending eternity with our Father in heaven. So, Mom did a lot of different things in this life, but she started out as a farm girl. One of the things she took pride in. I would talk to her on the phone, and she'd be like, I'd say, how you doing? She's like, doing okay, having any pain? Well, my knee, but you may have been to some nursing facilities or talked to older people, and then the men will start limping, and they're like, oh, it's an old football injury, or oh, it's an old war wound that's acting up on me. Mom's line was, it's an old tractor injury. And it would give her the opportunity to start talking about how at 6 years old, she started running the tractor on the farm. That she was the one who was given that responsibility, and she took pride in the fact that she was able to do that from a young age on up. And she did many things, as others have mentioned, around that place. She helped with the animals. She cared for the crops. My grandparents would have veggies and all kinds of things, and Mother grew up in the country, going on the back porch and shucking peas. That was part of life, and she loved it. During her teenage years, basketball cannot be understated, how much she loved that, and how much her mother and father loved that. She played half court 3-and-3, 3-on-3, and Grandmother Rosa said over and over again that those were the best years of her and Papa's lives, driving around and cheering on Catherine as she played. And she made friendships that would last a lifetime, including her best friend Joyce, who died just a few years ago. The last few years, she would coach Walker on the phone. So we would call her, and Walker plays basketball, and she would say, now when you get the ball, I want you to run at the basket like you're going to make a layup, and then I want you to cut underneath and shoot it from the other side. And whenever we would report on his most recent game, she would say, now did you do that shot I taught you? And he would say either yes ma'am or no ma'am, and she would reflect, that's a great shot. Great shot. Recently, talking basketball, she told me, Dalvin, I always dreamed of having a son that loved basketball like me, but God gave me Walker. Another hallmark of her early years was that she carried forward a family tradition of playing 42. And so the sound of shuffling dominoes and laughter filled their home in the early years. My grandparents would have people come from all over the place, and they would have 42 tournaments there at the house. And Mother became a pretty mean 42 player herself. She was willing to take a risk playing 42, and you better know that as a partner. And years later, rumor has it, it was on a blind date playing 42, where she met a young fellow by the name of Dee, that she would marry, and they would spend 25 years together. Upon getting married, they had a brief stay in Duncanville, where they made an impact on their neighbors and friends that would last a lifetime. In the late 90s, Mom and I went to Bill Luttrell's mom's funeral. And afterwards, she said, let's go by and see the old place here in Duncanville. So we got in the car and started driving to the old place, and as we're going through the neighborhood, she's going, this place has changed a lot. And I was like, yes, it has. And we drove by a house, and she said, that house didn't have bars on it back then. And I was like, she said, well, it's really interesting that family wants you to know that Smith & Wesson lives there. And I was like, yes, it is. And so we drive up, and she goes, there it is. So we pull up to her old house, and she says, now, Dalvin, I want you to run up to the neighbor's house and see if he still lives there. I said, you run up to the neighbor's house and see if he still lives there. And she said, no, it's okay. I'll be here for you if you need anything. So I go up to this house, knock on the door. I take about 5 steps back because I'm ready to run serpentine if I need to. And I hear loud footsteps coming up to the door, and he opens the door and he looks at me and he says, D. Hampton. And I told him who I was. Mom got out of the car and she came up, and when I told him who I was, he said, well, I would have bought water from you if you told me it was from the Fountain of Youth. And she came to the door, and as she approached, he saw her, and tears filled his eyes. And she gave him a hug, and he talked about what she meant to him 40 years later. And he knew her, and the impact that my dad and her had on him. So it was about 15 years later. I was working at the church in Creekside, and I met a couple of people. And one of them's name was Patty, the other was Diane. Come to find out, they were the little girls that lived at that house next door. And they told me when I first met them, they said, you know, one of the reasons we're in church today is because of your mom. And so they shared a story with me about how she treated them like they were her very own. So there was this day where after weeks of these girls coming up to the house, knocking on the door, banging on it, or coming inside and just inviting themselves in, Mother treated them like one of her own. And she said, now, young ladies, when you come to my house, you knock on the door once, and when I am able, I will come to the door. You don't stand there and shout my name. You don't stand there and bang on the door over and over again. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So they go home. A couple of days later, my mom is at the stove, and she's cooking. And the screen door, Miss Hampton, Miss Hampton. Just a moment. Miss Hampton. She ignored me. Just totally ignored. I don't know which one it was, Patty or Diane. But they kept knocking, kept calling her name. And here in a minute, she turns around. She said, I took an extra measure of time just to prove my point. She walks to the door and she says, okay, may I help you? And the little girl says, yes, ma'am. My house is on fire. And so the house didn't burn down. It was still there when I went back years later. But that was kind of the way it went there. Their marriage was marked by early moves. They went to Atlanta after that, both pursued master's degrees. And it was during that time that Mom had one of her favorite stories to tell, and that was about them going fishing on the Atlanta River. They went down and they were catching white bass one after another, just catching fish after fish after fish. And downstream from them, there were some people that were fishing, they weren't catching anything. And so the people kind of got closer and closer and then came up and said, what are y'all using? And so Mom and Dad told them what they were using. I think they even gave them one of the lures. So people go back down and still not catch anything. So they have a stringer full at this point, and Mom and Dad were like, okay, well, let's let them have our hole. So they switched spots. These people come down here catching nothing. Mom and Dad moved down here and catching fish after fish after fish. And every time she'd tell me that story, she would laugh and carry on. Lo and behold, that's what she'd say. Lo and behold, we caught all the fish. So while they were good neighbors, they left a lot of broken-hearted fishermen. Eventually, they came to Abilene, and Joey mentioned it, and I'm so glad that he did. But our house, and growing up, and I think it was just a different time. Growing up in the 70s, we knew all our neighbors. I mean, we knew the Roberts, the Lewises moved in next door. We'd have ice cream parties, and the whole block would come down and be in the front yard that connected the Lewis and Hampton house. And Mom Roberts, good times with Mom Roberts. We had the Oldhams and the Shaddids. And I can name all the neighbors going up and down the street. It's young. I can just, the Quintanilla's down the road. It was just, everybody knew each other. And Mom made sure we did. It was part of her purpose was to make sure that we knew the people that lived close to us. In June of 1981, us kids bought 25 of all kinds of things. Pennies, toothpicks, you name it, and we gave it to them to celebrate their 25th anniversary. We took pictures, I remember that day, and it was a happy time. And it wasn't a few months later that all that changed during the Columbus Day, shortly after the Columbus Day flood here. October 31st, Dad led the closing prayer at church, and that night he had a massive stroke, and he spent the next month in the hospital. And this was the beginning of events that eventually led to his passing in April. I had known it well at the time from my perspective, but through the years, I came to understand it more and more from hers. 48-year-old wife, watching the love of her life slowly and at times painfully die. For the last month of my dad's life, she stayed by his side in the hospital as he lay in a coma. And what that must have meant to her. The questions that she must have had. I remember standing at a funeral home, and I went up to the casket, and I hadn't seen him, and I was going to say, why is his nose misshapen? But I started it with why. And man, the questions just flooded out of her. I don't know why God did this. I don't know why we're here now. I don't know why this happened. And she just talked for a few minutes, but I couldn't imagine what that meant for a mom that had a 16, 14, 11, 10-year-old at home. And I do know what she did. Dad died on a Friday. We held his funeral on a Saturday. And Monday morning, she was back at work with the mantra, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That little 6-year-old girl inside her that refused to let the unfairness of life hold her down climbed back up on the tractor and did the work of providing and caring for her family. Being Kathy's kid meant a lot of things. One of the things it meant was putting groceries up at the house was a war zone sometimes. It would put fear in you. And if she told you to go to the pantry, you were like, oh, no, I don't want to go to the pantry, because that meant this was going to happen. Hey, Dalvin. Catch. And before you could get the bread put up, hey, Dalvin, catch. The can of corns were scary, but the thing that was really scary were the mayonnaise, the glass jars, things like that. And then there was a fateful day in the garage. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I do remember the mess. She said, hey, Dalvin, catch. I didn't. And we spent a little while cleaning that up. But another role that my mom loved and that she cherished was that even though she wasn't raised with brothers and sisters, she married into brothers and sisters. And she couldn't have bought better brothers and sisters than she got with the wedding ring that was provided. Through the years, when things were going on with my dad, it was my Aunt Lori that was there helping take care of things. Uncle Wayne behind the scenes taking care of things. Uncle Bruce teaching you how to fish. There's a moment as a kid when your dad dies and you fall asleep on vacation and your uncle comes in and picks you up and carries you to bed. Those are the moments. That's what we got from my dad's family, and I thank y'all. She said recently, there was nothing like being called Aunt Kathy. And she absolutely adored all of you. So thank you. Another role she loved was being grand-grand. I have invited one of her grandchildren to come up and share just a little bit about what being a person that gets to call her grand-grand meant to her. So you can come up.
When I was asked to talk today, I kept asking myself where I should start. Grand lived a beautiful life, so picking just a few things to talk about is never easy. There is not a single person she came into contact with that she did not impact. I began reading through some of her Bibles, and seeing her love for the Lord with the notes she made in them was so beautiful. Then I came across an index card. The index card read, "If teacups could talk, they would say so much about the past. Surely they would tell us about where they came from, who they belonged to, when they were used, what was served in them, and other exciting things." And then I immediately realized where all my odd thoughts came from. You would never have a dull or boring conversation with Grand. She loved telling stories, but my favorite stories to hear about were the ones about Papa D and Grandmother Rosa. Not only because I loved learning about them, but because Grand's face would light up, and I would see the biggest smile on her face every time she talked about them. Grand and I began writing letters to one another when I was very young. What I did not realize until a year ago is that she kept all my letters that I wrote her in her Bible. One letter I will always remember is the letter she sent to me with words of encouragement on it for me to put on my mirror. Some of the ones she wrote were, "Give yourself a high five, turn can do into can did, and march forward." Grand was not only the definition of encouragement, but she would live out those sayings on a daily basis. She would always know what to do. She would sit with me and watch, and people watch, and then she would sit with me and talk for hours on end. She always knew what the people around her needed, and she would do everything in her power to help the people she cared for. As I continued to think about where to start and what exactly to say, I began writing her a letter. Grand, I wish I had the chance to tell you all the ways you impacted me and my favorite memories with you. Even if I was sad or struggling, you always knew how to comfort me. You were the glue that made this family whole, and your light shined brighter than anyone could ever imagine. You somehow made me enjoy bird watching, and I have pulled those memories so close to my heart. We planted flowers together, which I haven't been able to keep any alive since the last one you helped me with. You taught me math, but not only did you teach me it, you taught me how to enjoy it. You taught me how to enjoy even the smallest things in life. I'm going to miss talking to you about all your sewing crafts and all your stories. You would make light in the darkest of situations, and you were the best grandma I could have ever asked for. You brought a sense of peace and a bright smile to every room you walked into. I know you were making jokes and doing puzzles with Papa D, and I know when those puzzles annoy you, you were with Aunt Joy and Grandmother Rosa doing your next craft, while Uncle Bruce is smoking a pipe and watching. I know as soon as you got to heaven and Jesus welcomed you home, Grandmother Rosa and Papa D were running towards you, and you had the biggest welcome home party. I can't wait to join you one day and birdwatch, play dominoes, sew, plant flowers, sing hymns, and solve math problems together again. Save some dances for me. I love you forever, my sweet Grand.
All of her grandkids reflect something in the image of Grand. It's like that golden spiral. We're getting further out, but they all carry a part of it. Tom is a tinkerer who loves to figure out how things work. Abby Rose, the rancher who takes care of her animals and loves the land. Sarah Kaylee, the math whiz. Luke, the bold, who will fiercely protect those that he loves. Jaden Hope, the seamstress who is carrying on the tradition from Grand and her mother before. Emma Rose, the crocheter, and all those other image-bearing moments that she just shared. Walker D, hoops, basketball player. And Grace Catherine, who I see more of Mom's laugh and amazing sense of humor than anyone. These patterns displayed at different times and places in Mom's lives repeat the echo of generations and the stories of those that she loved. Early in January, Mom's decline started, and she was hospitalized for shortness of breath. During that time, she wasn't responding to my sisters, and they became concerned, and so they called the nurse to come and check and see where things were. And so the nurse approached the bed and quietly leaned down and checked, and Mom said, "Food." And the nurse jumped, and everybody shared a laugh. But that was her. She would sit there and ignore you for a little bit, and then give you a start. 13 days ago, she had stopped eating and drinking, and a couple of nights later, Mom had a spell, as Grandmother Rosa would have said, and she didn't feel well, and she was worried about me, and she told Carl that she needed to call down and make sure he's okay. And so we talked on the phone. She was having a hard time and struggling. So I just talked to her and reminded her about Emma and her watching painted buntings together in a parking lot one time. I reminded her about walking through a bird sanctuary and holding Jaden's hand because we were scared of the bills on the great blue herons. And I told her about Walker's basketball tournament that weekend and how he got player of the tournament. Then I reminded her about the bird trip she and I had been on and how I thought I was going to catch her at one point, but she'd seen 400 or 500 species of birds. And at this point, the groaning stopped, and she said, "Oh, you're just a big talker. I have not seen that many birds." And I said, "I am a big talker, but you have seen that many birds." And I think she denied it again at that point. Then I asked if I told her about the recent trout I caught, and she said, "Oh no, here comes another fish story." At this point, her breathing had kind of evened out, and the battery on my cell phone promptly failed me. So at most funerals, they tell the story, the last word we said to each other, were, "I love you. I'm so proud of you." But the last word my mom said to me were, "You're a big talker." And oh no, here comes another fish story. Her need to call and talk reminded me of a story from my teenage years, and it was something that took place every time I came home. I had messed up. I know that shocks a lot of you. I was in 8th grade. Stayed out one night walking around the neighborhood with friends till like 3 a.m. And when I came in, she set my curfew at 10:30 and never changed it. 10:30, boom, boom. And I honored that. I'd be coming home at 10:28, 10:29, and turn the corner on Avenue B and East North 23rd, and there in her room, I could see the light from her lamp on her nightstand. And I knew what it meant. Because every night, I would walk in and I would say, "I'm home safe," walk down that hallway. And she would sit there with the Bible open and her markers. And she'd ask me about my day, and I would give her some one-word answer like teenagers do. Fine. I'd go in the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face, and I would come out and go into my room. And as I closed the door to my room, I would hear that light click off. And I would hear the sheets rustle and the bed creak. And I knew she was going to sleep. And I said 3 things to her. 1, couldn't sleep till I knew you were safe. 2, I decided to focus on God instead of worrying about you. And number 3, now that I know that you're home safe, I can rest. And so every time I got home, that was the thing that happened. And today, as we come here, shoes on the other foot. And I know that she is now home safe. I know that she is focused on God in a way that I can't imagine standing here. And I know that she is forever in the presence of love. I often think about love, and I'm like, love is a feeling, right? But she is in heaven and knows that love has a smell, right? It's completely and totally enveloping her, every part of it. And I know that we can all rest now because we know she is resting. And so here today, that is the thing that we all celebrate. And if I were to end right now, she might haunt me forever. Because there was a note in a Bible, and it said, "For Alvin, this is how you could end my work, end my service." And it was among many other notes. I mean, there were notes about seating charts where everybody's supposed to be, and y'all messed that up, by the way. And there was a little diagram of her casket and where people should be on it that were pallbearers with their names. I mean, she had every detail written down. But this is the detail, and I want you to just for a minute imagine your moment. We've shared some of our moments with Kathy, Mama, Grand. We've shared some of those moments with. I want you to imagine your moment, and I want you to imagine in that moment she turns and she looks at you and she gives you that little grin, like she knows something you don't, right? And right now she knows something all of us don't. She knows how the story ends, and she's celebrating that. And these are the words that she wanted to share with you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace.
Let's be standing as we sing number 700. Number 700. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. And give you peace. The Lord make his face to shine upon you, and be gracious unto you, and be gracious. The Lord be gracious, gracious unto Thank you for coming to the Celebration of Life service. The family will be in the visitation room for a few more minutes, and you didn't get a chance to see them or